Gray zone in the Dnipropetrovsk region, an attempted Russian breakthrough in Kupiansk, and the approach of Russian artillery towards Zaporizhzhia. A synchronized attempt on the lives of Ukrainian military commanders, Russia tried to kill all the commanders of the drone line. Humanitarian catastrophe. Gaza is dying of hunger. According to local authorities, 133 people have already died of starvation. For the first time since 2017, Russia has cancelled the Navy Day parade. A massive collapse at Russia's Sheremetyevo Airport. Donald Trump was caught cheating at golf. Hello, my name is Yulia Kochan, and right now the main stories. But first, please like this video if you support Ukraine and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose touch with you on YouTube. The gray zone in the Dnipropetrovsk region, a Russian attempt to break through to Kupiansk, and the approach of Russian artillery towards Zaporizhzhia. The situation at the front remains tense. There is a growing negative trend of increased enemy activity in all directions. This is according to a soldier with the call sign Alex.
A few days ago, the enemy resumed its activity in the Sivers direction. There were mechanized assaults, gangs on motorcycles supported by armored vehicles, IFVs, and tanks. The enemy's assault units were destroyed. It's still unclear whether this is the start of major activity along the entire Sivers direction, or, as usual, they're just probing the front line from time to try their luck. At least that's how it looks from our side. I would just add that right now there is a growing negative trend of increased enemy activity along the entire front line.
Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War are also talking about the occupiers' advance in the Siversk area.
Geolocated maps published on the 27th of July indicate that Russian forces have recently advanced to the northeast of Siversk during an intensified mechanized assault at company strength.
The increased enemy activity is also noted by military correspondent Bohdan Miroshnikov. According to him, the Novopavlivka, Kupiansk, and Siversk directions are causing much more concern than Pokrovsk. And here's why.
While Pokrovsk and Kostiantynivka have been more or less reinforced and the chaos there has been sorted out, in the three aforementioned directions, there is still neither an understanding of what to do nor the means to rectify the situation.
And the concerns about Kupiansk are not unfounded. Deep State reports that the occupiers are trying to enter Kupiansk from the northwest.
The enemy is attempting to enter Kupiansk from the northwest. The defense forces are taking measures to drive out the assault groups of Russians who, coming from Radkivka near the gas station and Holubivka, are trying to gain a foothold in the direction of the private sector. The situation is further complicated by the fact that the enemy has a large area of penetration, reaching as far as Sobolivka. The enemy's goal is obvious: to stretch the defensive lines of Ukraine's forces, break through, and subsequently block the city from the western side.
At the same time, according to OSINT analysts, Russian troops have begun to enter the Dnipropetrovsk region from various directions and have partially captured the village of Malivka.
The settlement of Malivka in the Dnipropetrovsk region is partially under enemy control. The western part is in a so-called gray zone. In other words, the fighting is still ongoing.
At the same time, according to the Institute for the Study of War, the threat to Zaporizhzhia is increasing. The occupiers are approaching positions from which they can shell Zaporizhzhia with artillery.
A further advance of 5 kilometers towards Stepnohersk, Primorsky, or Bezelianka would allow the terrorist army to shell Zaporizhzhia with artillery systems.
The situation remains extremely tense in the Pokrovsk direction. According to Muchny, the Russians are continuously applying pressure there and are preparing either an offensive on Pokrovsk or its blockade.
Shelling and assaults continue towards the park area of Pokrovsk. Additionally, there are risks that the enemy will try to move closer to the mine and seize the roads leading out of the city. In general, the Russians are trying to encircle Pokrovsk in a semicircle. As you've already understood, they are pressing from the southwest and southeast. Right now, they are actively using FABs, artillery, assault groups, and FPV drones.
Of course, it's hard to find anything positive in this situation, but still, the General Staff has officially confirmed the liberation of Kondratovka in the Sumy region and has shown unique footage of the operation. As they say, the Ukrainian armed forces' counteroffensive in this direction continues.
In the Sumy region, the defense forces are succeeding and continue to take active measures against the Russians.
And there's also an epidemic of suicides among the occupiers. Our drones are recording almost daily how Russian soldiers are eliminating themselves with their own hands. And finally, an almost historic operation. A Ukrainian interceptor drone destroyed a Russian Orion UAV at an altitude of 5,500 meters. This Russian drone is capable of carrying precision-guided bombs and guided missiles. It costs $5 million, and our interceptor drone costs just a few $1,000s. In short, the guys did a great job. Let's thank our defense forces in the comments. Our defenders are doing the impossible. Simultaneous assassination attempts on Ukrainian military commanders. Russia tried to kill all the commanders of the drone units. At the same time, the occupiers wanted to eliminate Madyar, Verez, Achilles, Zemlyak, Klim, and Hassan. Madyar himself spoke about this. Fortunately, the coordinated Russian attack was unsuccessful.
Big dogs, we noticed your attempt to hit all of us at once yesterday. Go smoke you, Bambucello.
And we see the Russian assassination attempt as proof that our military is working so well that apart from elimination, Russia doesn't know how else to stop the Ukrainian Cossacks. I want to thank our soldiers. In previous episodes, we told you about a possible meeting between Zelensky and Putin. Let me refresh your memory. It was about the fact that during recent negotiations between the Ukrainian and Russian delegations, they reached a fundamental agreement on holding that very meeting. We also mentioned that Turkish President Erdogan is the main organizer of the talks and is coordinating the date and time. Ukraine has also spoken about the meeting, and even more than that, President Zelensky is already waiting for Putin's response to the proposal to meet before the end of August.
We are awaiting a response to our proposal to hold a high-level meeting before the end of August. Representatives of Europe must definitely be present at it, but
whether we will get consent from Russia is a contentious question, because just last week the Kremlin stated that it is simply unrealistic to prepare for a meeting of this level in 30 days.
A high-level, critically important meeting can and absolutely should put a definitive and final end to the ongoing settlement process and formally establish those essential modalities, those crucial agreements that truly need to be carefully developed during the expert detail work. Doing the opposite is impossible. Is it possible to go through such a complex process in 30 days? Well, obviously it's unlikely. Then here, our position is very well known. Our position is set out in the draft memorandum that was submitted by the Ukrainian side. And now the approaches to the draft memorandum that were exchanged during the second round are diametrically opposed. It's hardly possible to reconcile them all at once. This will require very complex diplomatic work.
Why? Perhaps because Russia does not want peace and will delay the meeting under some pretext. And the Institute for the Study of War also talks about Russia deliberately dragging out the negotiations between Zelensky and Putin.
the Institute for the Study of War continues to assess that Russia is interested in negotiations in order to buy time to achieve success on the battlefield and to gain concessions from Ukraine and the West, which stands in stark contrast to Ukraine's consistent willingness to participate in ceasefire talks.
You don't have to be an expert to assume that the meeting won't happen. The only question is what pretext Russia will use to back out of the idea and what ultimatums it will put forward. What do you think? Write your thoughts in the comments. Honestly, I thought this would happen sooner, but better late than never, Russia has cancelled the Navy Day parade for the first time since 2017.
Happy Navy Day to all our dedicated personnel and supporters. Hooray!
The Kremlin explained this decision by citing security concerns. Simply put, Putin is afraid. Although it seems to me that Putin is not only scared of drones, but also of the fact that there's nothing left to show at the parade. And I can't even count how many ships Russia has lost due to Ukraine's successful attacks. But Russia itself has also contributed to this, sending its fleet into oblivion, although it calls it repairs. But let's get back to the drone attack. Just yesterday, Russia claimed that St. Petersburg, where the parade is traditionally held, was subjected to the most massive drone attack yet. But despite this, Putin appeared in public for the first time since last October. Although it seems to me that this was just the same old, well-trained Kremlin crowd.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Wow, cool. Well, at this rate, who knows, maybe they'll even cancel the parade on May 9th, so to speak, for security reasons. And what do you think of Putin without his little ships? He was ready to give Russia 5 Ukrainian regions. Austria's Foreign Minister Beate Meindl-Reisinger stated that after coming to power, US President Donald Trump offered Putin to take 5 regions of Ukraine. Shocking! Shocking! In addition, according to the Austrian minister, Trump was ready to ban Ukraine from joining NATO, but Putin refused.
President Trump handed Crimea and several eastern regions to Putin on a silver platter, so to speak, and also excluded Ukraine's membership in NATO. And what does Putin do? He continues to wage a war of destruction against the country.
I can believe that Putin wanted to go to war, but Trump's offer raises questions. Although he is a controversial figure, and at the beginning of his term, he was definitely not on Ukraine's side. Just look at the argument in the White House with the Ukrainian president. In addition, US Secretary of State Mark Rubio stated that Trump no longer believes in Russia's ability to negotiate an end to the war.
I think he is becoming increasingly disappointed. Despite good interactions with Putin and phone conversations, it leads nowhere. It's time to act, and he has made it clear that he is losing patience and is no longer willing to wait for the Russian side to end the war. And
it's easy to believe in Trump's fatigue with Russia, especially considering yet another statement from Putin's main henchman, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, that the main Russian condition for peace is the recognition of the realities on the ground. Which ones? That's the mystery. The Kremlin will figure it out later, just like they've already come up with the idea that they're fighting without any allies. Yes, North Korean soldiers and Iranian drones, those are just collective hallucinations. Well, it's good that Trump is slowly but surely coming to a realization.
For the first time in its entire history, Russia is fighting alone against the whole West. In the First World War, in the Second World War, we had allies. Now, we have no allies on the battlefield.
Do you believe that Trump offered Putin Ukrainian territories? A humanitarian catastrophe. Gaza is dying of hunger. According to local authorities, 133 people have already died of starvation, most of them children. Only 73 trucks with food, humanitarian aid, managed to break through to northern and southern Gaza. In the video that appeared online, you can see the moment the trucks arrive in one of the districts. Clash Report publishes harrowing footage of local residents near a truck with humanitarian aid. Hundreds of rabbis from different countries have signed an appeal calling on Israel to stop using hunger as a weapon against the civilian population. Israeli authorities state that they are allowing humanitarian aid in, placing the responsibility for the shortage on Hamas. There are reports of plans to airdrop food to overcome logistical barriers. 90% of families do not have access to safe drinking water. Israel, controlling the entire perimeter of the Gaza Strip, does not allow foreign journalists to enter without an escort. The Palestinian side accuses the Israeli military of constantly shooting and killing people, crowds that gather near aid distribution points. And whose side are you on in this war? Share your thoughts in the comments. Hungary will not support the EU budget aimed at the war with Russia. Yes, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban stated that his country will not support the new 7-year EU budget because, according to him, it is focused on continuing the war with Russia. He wrote about this on social media platform X.
Billions for Ukraine, crumbs for farmers and others. Their goal is to defeat Russia's young authoritarian allies. We are imposing a worldview based on fantasy for the first time. Chapter and checks. Is it 112 airport? Orban
believes that 20% of the EU budget is planned to be allocated to support Ukraine, while the rest is for military purposes. In his opinion, the EU's goal is to militarily weaken Russia in order to change the government in the Kremlin, and the budget supposedly does not support development or agriculture. According to Orban, Hungary will not support this proposal because it needs a budget of peace. Well, honestly, I'm not surprised by Orban's position. You really have to go out of your way to encourage and play along with Russia like that. It's downright disgusting. Do you agree? A massive collapse at Russia's Sheremetyevo Airport. As a result, dozens of flights have been delayed or cancelled. This was reported by Russian Telegram channels.
Dragging
to the beach, noted. On the afternoon of the 28th of July, hundreds of Aeroflot passengers were trapped at Sheremetyevo Airport. Some flights were rescheduled. Other passengers were less fortunate, their flights were cancelled. After waiting for several hours, people decided to leave the airport. But even then, they encountered difficulties. A traffic jam formed at the exit, and people even had to stand in line there.
The problem arose due to a service failure caused by a hacker breach.
The disruption at Aeroflot is linked to a large-scale hacker attack. At least, that's what the hackers from the Silent Crow and Cyber Partisans groups claim. The airline reported that they cancelled 42 round-trip flights. The hackers claimed that they destroyed the IT infrastructure of the airline Aeroflot. Judging by their statement, they carried out the operation over the course of a year, and during this time infiltrated the corporate network, managed to gain access to a large database of flight history and the personnel control system, as well as to recordings of internal company phone calls. They also claim that they managed to destroy about 7,000 physical and virtual servers.
Social media users are saying that something has definitely gone wrong. Russian Aeroflot can't even refuel its planes after the hacker attack. The company's operations are completely paralyzed. The computers aren't working either at Sheremetyevo or in the offices. By the way, Aeroflot shares have plummeted sharply. Well, what can I say? It's not just the web that's affected. This is simply a special operation. Don't worry. Russia's economy is cracking under the pressure of war and sanctions. Key industries are experiencing a downturn, and banks are preparing for possible state bailouts. This is reported by Bloomberg. As noted in the publication, Russia's economy, which managed to stay afloat in the first years after the invasion of Ukraine, is now showing signs of weakening. Previously, it seemed that it was even overheating, but now it is clear that cracks in the system are obvious. As early as November 2024, analysts predicted that 2025 would be a year of consumer decline. Moscow is betting on military spending at the expense of civilians. One example is the ceremony with Putin's participation on the Boreya nuclear submarine. Meanwhile, car sales in July dropped by 30%. According to geoeconomic analyst Alex Kocharev from Bloomberg Economics, the Russian economy is under pressure from the consequences of the war, sanctions, labor shortages, weak oil prices, and high interest rates. This undermines the stability of several sectors at once.
News anchor, the decision by countries, including China and India, to continue buying Russian oil and other products, along with the reluctance of even some Western economies to completely cut themselves off from Russian natural resource exports, has been an important support for the Russian economy. But over time, the broad and tightening package of sanctions is having increasingly noticeable effects. Take, for example, the Russian coal industry. Before Putin's failed attempt in February 2022 to seize all of Ukraine, this sector was heavily dependent on mining equipment from Europe, the US, and Japan. Sanctions have cut off this access. At first, there was hope that Chinese suppliers could fill this gap, but the quality of Chinese equipment often does not meet the industry's expectations, and its availability remains limited. Bloomberg reported this month. In many cases, orders have to be placed years in advance, according to people familiar with the matter. Announcer, now this is
News! Just listen to this. Donald Trump was caught cheating at golf. And this isn't the first time. This was reported by the Daily Mail. During a game at the course in Thornbury, Scotland, one of the assistants threw a ball in front of the US president right from the golf cart, which is a violation of the rules. Trump walked up to the gift with the club in hand, and this moment was caught on camera. The video quickly spread across social media. Users on X are joking. Why bother with the foot wedge when you have your own personal ball tosser? And the PGA Pro called it a perfect metaphor for a cheating commander-in-chief. Moreover, according to the Daily Mail, this is not the first time this has happened. Actors Samuel L. Jackson and Anthony Anderson have previously accused Trump of cheating, and journalist Rick Riley wrote that his assistants nicknamed him Pele because of his habit of kicking the ball. And what would you call Trump for playing golf like that? Share your suggestions in the comments. Like this video to support what we do, and be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss the next episodes. See you next time!